Great to see you all. Welcome to week 3 of our Power Pilates class. This is our fully standing Pilates class, and just like the previous weeks, the class today will be recorded and the video will be uploaded onto our Parkinson's Society VC YouTube channel after the class. Now, our Power Pilates class, we're focusing a lot on postural exercises with an added bit of muscle endurance and muscle strength, as you'll see in the class. Now, if you are new today, welcome, and not to worry about missing the previous classes. We will always start the beginning of the class going over our 5 Pilates rest positions, which the name is a little bit misleading because, as you'll see in a moment, the positions are not very restful at all. But the point of them is that these 5 positions are going to be your baseline postural positions whenever you do any kind of Pilates. And so the idea is you're trying to maintain all 5 of these Pilates rest positions when we're moving throughout the remainder of the class, when you add on arms and legs and things like that. And the focus of that is try to have us improve on our trunk control muscles and our postural control muscles. I was going to say something else, but I forgot now. Sometimes I feel like I talk too much and then I forget my train of thought. Well, it'll come back to me. Okay, so we'll get the class started, and during the class, I might come forward to let folks in from the waiting room if we do have anyone late joining. So if that happens, please ignore me and just keep going with your exercises. Okay, let me just make sure I don't have anyone else stuck in the waiting room. Okay, wonderful. An added note, you might find that it's a little easier to do the class in bare feet, just because you might find that you're getting a bit more sensation at the bottom of your feet on the floor. If you are barefoot, then of course, by all means, you don't have to. You can absolutely do this in socks as well. Just make sure you're not on hardwood floor with the socks, because I don't want you to slip on anything. So that would be the only thing I would say if you are someone who's wearing socks. If you're wearing shoes, that's okay too. It might be a little bit harder to do some of the brushing Tendu exercises with shoes on, but it's entirely up to you. Okay, I'm gonna have a stand up, making sure my video is gonna stay in this large format. Okay, so we'll get the class started. So every now and then I might turn sideways so you can see my posture a little bit better. Given that our Pilates class is focusing a lot on postural control. So to start off today, we're going to do our grounding exercise. So you can either have your arms just hang by your side if you're comfortable with that, or you can place your hands onto your hips, whatever feels better for you. I'm just letting somebody in from the waiting room. So either arms down or hands on your hips, whichever you're more comfortable with. And we're going to start by pressing the bottoms of our feet and all 10 toes deep into the ground. It's almost like you're spreading all 10 toes on the floor as if you're growing roots into the floor. And you're really bringing awareness to the soles of your feet and where you feel the contact with the floor. So we're going to start by spreading out all 10 toes as wide as we possibly can. And then you're going to scrunch up the 10 toes again. Scrunch them in as tightly as you can. And again, we're going to spread the toes out as wide as possible. Keep going. And scrunch the toes as much as you can. One more. Spreading the toes as wide as you can, all 10 toes spreading out. And then pulling all 10 toes in, scrunching them up as much as you can. And then bring your feet to neutral again, nice and relaxed. From here, you're going to imagine your body like an inverted pendulum. And we're going to start weight shifting, bring our weight forward to the very tops of our feet. And then bring our weight back to the very heels of our feet. I'm going to turn sideways. So we're swaying forward to the toes and then swaying back to the heels. Now, this swaying movement does not have to be very big per se. It might be quite subtle for you because the idea of the swaying is we're trying to shift our weight as far as we can in each direction without losing our balance and without needing to take a step. We want to keep our feet grounded into the earth, and we're just weight shifting on top. And you'll notice that when I'm doing the weight shifting movement here, I'm not bending my knees and I'm not swaying my hips. My body is sort of in one line, if you can see. So the entire body is sort of like a plank of wood, and the whole plank is moving and swaying. And now we're going to try the same thing, but now sideways. I'm turning back to face you. We're going to side now. And when you're doing the side to side swaying, just like the forward and backward sway, we don't want to be doing this. We want the entire body to be in one plank, and the entire body is moving together. And we're not lifting our feet off the floor either. Both feet stay on the floor. Or weight shifting from right to left and then left to right again. And we're really trying to press the soles of our feet into the ground as we're doing this. We want to go as far as we can in each direction without lifting your feet and without losing your balance. And then now we're going to take both of these forward, backwards, and sideways movements together. And we're going to start to draw our name. So see if you can write your name by weight shifting, really connecting the soles of your feet to the ground. So we're sort of swaying in multiple different directions now, in a combination of forwards and sideways, in order for you to write your name. And all the while, you're making sure that we're not letting the hips lead the movement, we're not letting the knees lead the movement, but the entire body is sort of like an inverted pendulum, and the entire body is moving in one plank, in one piece. And the only movement point, the pivot point, the fulcrum, if you will, would be your ankles. And as you're writing your name, you're really trying to ground yourself into the earth. Almost like with every weight shift, you're digging yourself, pressing yourself deeper into the ground, really feeling the soles of your feet on the floor. Nicely done. And when you're finished with your name, you're going to come to some stillness where your weight is perfectly in the middle of your 2 feet, and you're going to let your arms drop down for a second. And from here, we're just going to turn our palms forward and back. Let your arms hang nice and heavy, almost like you've got some weight attached to your wrists and they're kind of hanging down. You're just rotating your arms forward and backwards on the spot. And then we're going to place our hands onto our hips, soften the knees a little bit, and we're going to go into our 5 Pilates rest position. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. I want you to imagine your hips is like a bucket filled with water. So the rim of the bucket is where your hips are, and the rest of the bucket is kind of your legs. You're imagining this bucket is filled all the way to the top with water, and you're going to rock and tip your pelvis such that the water comes out the front of the bucket, and then you're going to tip back so that the water is coming out the back of the bucket. So imagine your hips like the rim of a bucket, and you're tipping the water forward and tipping the water backwards out of the bucket. And we're gonna keep swaying and tilting our pelvis forwards and back as far as you can in each direction, really imagining that water is spilling out the front of the bucket and then the back of the bucket, as far as you can tip in each direction. And then with every movement, you're going to make this tilting movement smaller and smaller and smaller until you come to stillness, smack in the middle of where your neutral pelvis is. So this is a spot where the imaginary water is sitting perfectly in the middle of the bucket. It's not tipping forward, not tipping back, not tipping to the side. It's perfectly level inside the rim of the bucket. That is the first position of our Pilates rest position, your neutral pelvis. And we're going to maintain this at all times. So whenever we start moving, we're going to maintain our neutral pelvis. We're not going to tip the pelvis. We're not tipping the bucket. We're keeping that neutral. The second Pilates rest position, we're going to focus on our ribs. Imagine you've got a little belt at the front of your ribs and you're clipping the belt in place so that your ribs are buckled in. Can you see that? Your ribs are buckled in, like you're clipping your ribs in place such that your ribs are moving back towards your spine. And while you have that imaginary seatbelt tucking the ribs in, you're still maintaining your neutral pelvis. So just because your ribs are no longer flailing doesn't mean you're going to start doing this with your hips. So we're maintaining that neutral bucket position, tucking the ribs into our spine like you've got a little seatbelt. And then we're going to think about our shoulder blades squeezing back and sliding down our backs as if we're tucking the shoulder blades into the opposite back pocket of our pants. And while we maintain that position, we're still keeping the ribs buckled in, not flaring out, and we're maintaining our neutral bucket, our neutral pelvis position. And then we're going to think about lengthening the back of our necks and tucking that chin in ever so slightly, as if you've got a little peach that you're holding underneath your chin. And while you're doing that, you're still maintaining the shoulder blades sticking back and sliding down into the opposite back pocket of your pants. We're still maintaining the ribs buckled in and towards our spine, and the neutral pelvis where the bucket is not moving at all. And then you're going to think about pulling up through the bottom of your pelvic floor as if you just stepped into some really cold water and you went, and you're pulling up a little bit through the bottom. All 5 of these positions together make up our 5 Pilates rest positions. And as you can feel right now, it's actually not very restful at all. It's very difficult to maintain all 5 positions at the same time, but we're going to maintain all 5 as we do our exercise. And so maintaining our neutral bucket, our neutral pelvis, keeping our ribs tucked in, no flaring ribs, keeping our shoulder blades squeezing back and sliding down into the opposite back pocket of our pants, long back of the neck with a little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. We're going to go into our Pilates walking, or pedaling our feet. I'm going to go sideways. And as we're doing our Pilates walking, we're going to maintain our neutral pelvis. So we're not doing this with our pelvis. We're maintaining our neutral pelvis. Really think about our hips like the bucket rim, and the water inside is perfectly still. Not a single ripple, not a single movement in that water. The ribs are still buckled in and towards the spine, and then our shoulder blades are tucked back and sliding down as if we're putting them into the opposite back pocket of our pants, long back of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor, breathing as we do our Pilates walking series. Maintaining all 5 Pilates positions, even though we're moving our arms and pedaling our feet. As you'll see when the class moves on, that it's actually quite difficult to maintain all 5 Pilates rest positions as we start moving our limbs through space, specifically when the movements get much bigger in sort of an outer range position. Keep going. Check in with yourself. Are your ribs still tucked in or are they flaring out? Do you still have your neutral pelvis maintained? Is that water completely still in your bucket? Shoulder blades are still tucking back into the opposite back pocket of our pants. Long back to the neck with a little peach under the chin, pulling up through our pelvic floor. And we're going to extend the arms even more into our toy soldier. Keeping the feet pedaling, moving the arms into the toy soldier, maintaining your neutral pelvis. Imagine your pelvis being that bucket of water. We're not letting the water in the bucket move at all. It's completely still, not spilling out of the bucket. Ribs are still tucked in together towards the spine. Shoulder blades are still sliding down your back as if you're tucking them into the opposite back pocket of your pants. Long back to the neck, little peach tucked under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. Nicely done. I'm going to turn back to facing. Keep those ribs in. Don't let them flare out. Keep the neutral pelvis pulling up through your pelvic floor. Nicely done. We're going to add a variation of the arms. Keep the feet pedaling. Arms forward. And up. And side. And down. Keep going. Maintain your neutral pelvis. Ribs still tucked in. Don't let the ribs flare out. Shoulder blades still sliding down your backs. Long back of the neck. Little peach under the chin. Pulling up through the pelvic floor. Nicely done. Arms forward. Up above. To the side. And down. Again, forward. Overhead. To the side. And down. Last one. Going forward. Keep those ribs tucked in. Long back to the neck. Neutral pelvis. And down. Lower the heels. You're going to float your arms up in front of you. Maintain your neutral pelvis, ribs tucked in, shoulder blades sliding down your backs as if you're pulling them into the opposite back pocket of your pants. Long back to the neck with a little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. And we're going to go into our pliés and up from the side. Our pliés and up. Maintain that neutral pelvis. The plie is not the same as a squat. So a plie, we're keeping our trunk nice and straight, almost like our body is an elevator. It's going up and down, but not forward and back. So we're just sending our knees forward over the toes. Whereas a squat requires us to stick our bottoms back, and that's not what we're doing here. So we're going to keep our bottoms tucked in. Really think about that neutral pelvis. Like you've got that bucket of water as your pelvis and the bucket of water is not moving. Ribs tucked in, not flaring out, tucked in. Pulling up through the pelvic floor. Shoulder blades sliding down your backs. Long backs of the neck with a little peach under the chin. Pulling up through the pelvic floor. And from here, at the bottom of our plie, we're going to pop the heel and come back up. Pop the heel and come back up. And the entire time we're doing this, we're maintaining our neutral pelvis. That bucket of water is not moving. Ribs still tucked into our spine, not flaring out. Shoulder blades sliding down the backs. Long backs of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. Hold our plie, maintain the same height, and now try to pop your heels one at a time again, maintaining that same height. Your height is not changing. We're not going up and down. We're maintaining that same height as we lift up. one heel at a time. Breathing, keep low, same height. And when you're ready, we're going to try 2 heels at the same time if you can. Maintaining that same height as much as you can. Neutral pelvis. Don't let the bucket of water move. Ribs tucked into your spine. Shoulder blades sliding down your back. Long back of the neck with a little peach under the chin. Pulling up through the pelvic floor. Last 10. 9. 8. 7. 6. Ribs tucked in. 5. Neutral pelvis. 4. 3. Long backs of the neck. 2. Last 1. Standing up and shake out the legs. Nicely done, everybody. Shake it out. Shake it out. Good. Whew. Okay. Come back and find your neutral. We're going to re-find our 5 Pilates rest positions again. You can place your hands on your hips if it's easier for you for the bucket analogy. And turn it sideways. We're going to start by tipping our pelvis forward and back, almost like our pelvis is the bucket of water, and we're tipping the water forward out of the bucket and then backwards out of the bucket. And we're going to rock forward and backwards a couple of times, and we're going to make the movement smaller and smaller each time until we come to a neutral position where the water is sitting perfectly still, smack in the middle of the bucket, not tipping more forward and not tipping more backwards, but smack in the middle. That's your neutral pelvis. Next, our ribs, we're going to think about a little seatbelt at the front of ribs that we're tucking in. So our ribs are tucking in towards our spine, together and back towards our spine. Shoulder blades sliding down our backs as if we're tucking the shoulder blades into the opposite back pocket of our pants. Long back of the neck with a little peach tucked under the chin. So our necks are not like this. Long back of the neck with a little peach tucked under. And we're pulling up through our pelvic floor. From here, we're going to float the arms forward and we're going to go into our tendus. We're sliding, brushing your foot along the floor and then sliding it back. Let me go sideways. You're brushing the foot along the floor and then sliding it back. So really think about the bottom of your foot is like a paintbrush. You're painting a line on the floor. You're sliding that leg and then sliding it back. We're not lifting. We're sliding, brushing, dusting the floor. It's almost like someone's pulled your big toe away from you. And back in. And as we do our tendus, we're maintaining all 5 Pilates rest positions. Neutral pelvis, that bucket of water is not tipping. We're keeping that pelvis completely still. Ribs tucked in towards your spine. Shoulder blades sliding down into the back pocket of your pants. Long back of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through your pelvic floor. We're going to add on. On your next tendu, we're going to brush that leg even further so that it comes off the floor. Brush, lengthening even further so that it comes off the floor. Lengthen away like someone pulled you by your toes. Lengthen away. Lengthen away, maintaining all 5 Pilates rest positions. Your neutral pelvis not moving. Ribs still tucked into your spine. Shoulder blades sliding down our backs. Long back of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. On your next one, you're going to pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other side, same thing, sliding, pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other leg, as you're pulsing, you're maintaining all 5 Pilates rest positions. Neutral pelvis, ribs tucked into your spine, shoulder blades sliding down your backs. Long back of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through your pelvic floor. 10, 9, 8, 7. We're going back to our tendus. So we're thinking about our neutral pelvis. Remember, we talked about the pelvis. We're not tipping more forwards or back. We're keeping that neutral stance. Our ribs are tucked into our spine, shoulder blades sliding down into the opposite back pocket of our pants, long back of the neck, little peach tucked in under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. Our arms are floating up in front of us. A moment ago, we did tendons forward. Now we're going to the side. We're brushing that foot to the side and brushing it in. Like the analogy of that paintbrush as your foot. You're drawing that straight line out to the side. Keep your knees pointing forward. Keep going. I'm just letting somebody in. Keep going. Think about sliding that knee away. Sliding that leg away. Someone pulling your big toes away from you. Keep the knees facing forward, maintaining your neutral pelvis. As you're doing that, ribs still tucked into your spine, shoulder blades sliding down your back. Long back of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor, sliding the leg away, keeping your knees forward, sliding the leg away. Nicely done. Sliding that leg away. And on the next one, we're going to slide even further until our foot hovers off the floor. Really think about, we're not just lifting the leg, but we're lengthening. We're brushing that leg away and extending even more away from us to hover off the floor. Someone pulling your foot away, lengthen to lift. Lengthen that leg to lift. Nicely done. Keep the knee facing forward if you can. And we're getting ready to pause for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other side. Really think about lengthening, growing that leg away for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep going. I'm just letting somebody in. Keep going. We really think about lengthening the leg away to pulse. Nicely done. Maintain that neutral pelvis. Ribs still tucked into our spine. Shoulder blades sliding down our backs. Long back of the neck. Little peach under the chin. And pulling up through your pelvic floor. Hopefully the outside of your hip is burning. Knees facing forward. Last one for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back to the middle. Plié. Drop the arms. Float the arms out to the side. And we're going to pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tapping your shoulders. Keep your elbows up as high as you can. Elbows nice and high. Tapping the shoulders. Keep the elbows up. Don't let them droop down. Elbows up. Tap, tap, tap. Nicely done. Breathing. You're still pliéing, right? So from the side, see how my knees are still bent. I'm still pliéing. Maintaining your neutral pelvis. Ribs tucked into your spine. Long back to the neck. Pulsing 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep the arms up. One forward at a time. Elbows up nice and high. Sliding the entire arm nice and high. Nice and high with the elbows. Both arms forward. Pulsing palms down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms down. Keep your neutral spine. Shoulders down. Palms up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tapping your shoulders. We're almost done. One more round of these left. tapping the shoulders. Keep your elbows up as high as you can. Keep your elbows up nice and high. Nicely done. We're going to bring the arms out to the side. Last round, pulsing 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Palms down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And drop the arms. Shake out the arms. Shake out the legs. Nicely done, everybody. Whew. Okay, we're gonna bring our feet all the way in, and we're gonna walk our feet out to our second position. So keeping the heels together, we're gonna lift the toes out so that they're facing a diagonal. Then keep the toes down on the floor, bring the heels out. And then again, heels down, toes out, toes down, heels out. And now, if you look down at your feet, you should be in a position where your feet are wider than your hip width apart, hopefully, and your legs should make sort of like a triangle shape, if you will. In this position, we're just going to turn our toes outwards a little bit to the diagonal. And from here, we're going to refine our 5 Pilates rest position. So we're going to start by placing our hands on our hips. Now, it's going to be a little harder in this position because our legs are separate. It's easier when our arms and legs are in towards the center, but the further out we move our arms and legs, the harder it is to find our 5 Pilates rest position. So soft bend to the knees, just so they're not locked, we're just softening them. And then you're going to start by tipping your pelvis. Let me turn sideways. You're tipping your pelvis. We're going to find our neutral pelvis again. So you're imagining your pelvis is like a bucket, the rim of a bucket, and you're tipping your pelvis forward and back such that you're letting the water of the bucket fall out the front and fall out the back. And we're going to keep tipping our pelvis forward and back. And with each movement, we're going to make the tipping smaller and smaller and smaller until you come to stillness in your neutral pelvis, which is where the pelvis is halfway between tipping as far as you can forward and halfway between tipping as far as you can backwards. And that's what we call your neutral pelvis. That's your first Pilates rest position. You're maintaining your neutral pelvis at all times. Then we're going to think of our ribs. We're going to think about clipping our ribs in. So we're not letting our ribs split out. We're clipping them in to our spine. But while you do that, we're maintaining our neutral spine. We don't want to be like this when we clip in our ribs. You want to maintain your neutral spine and tuck the ribs in on top of that. Shoulder blades squeezing back and sliding down our backs as if we're trying to tuck them into the opposite back pocket of our pants. Long back of the neck, little peach tuck underneath the chin, pulling up through our pelvic floor as if we just stepped into some cold water and we're pulling up through the bottom of our pelvis. I'm going to face you again. In this position, we're going to go into our pliés. And as we do our pliés, we want to send our knees over or our knees over our toes. And we don't want the knees to be coming forward like this as my toes are going out. So I want the knees to be wide open over the toes. And as we're doing our pliés, we are going to keep our shoulder blades sliding down, almost like we're tucking them into the opposite back pocket of our pants. And our ribs are still tucked into our spine, no flaring. Our neutral pelvis is maintained. That bucket of water, that's our pelvis, not moving at all, not a single drop. Pulling up through the bottom of our pelvic floor, long back to the neck, tucking that chin in as if we got a little peach that we're holding under the chin. And as we do our pliés, make sure we're breathing. Nicely done. Think about all 5 Pilates rest positions. Long necks, ribs tucked in. On the next plie, we're going to hold and pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming back up. Playing again. Maintaining our neutral pelvis. Ribs tucked into our spine. Shoulder blades sliding down into the opposite back pocket of our pants. Long back of the neck. Pulsing again for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming back up, pliés again. Really think about those ribs. Don't let them flare out. Keep the ribs tucked in. Neutral spine. Don't let your tailbone stick out. Again for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming back up and down. Breathing. On the next plie, we're going to hold, maintaining all 5 Pilates rest positions. See if you can pop a heel on either side. Keep that neutral pelvis. Keep the ribs tucked in towards your spine. Shoulder blades sliding down your back as if you're tucking them into the opposite back pocket of your pants. Long back of the neck, little peach under the chin. Breathing. Keep the same height if you can. Same height. Same height. Last 10, 9, 8, same height. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Standing back up, shake out the legs if you need. Nicely done. And then when you're ready, we're going to get right back into our pliés. Neutral hips. We're thinking about the pelvis nice and neutral. Ribs clipped in together and sliding towards our spine. Our shoulder blades are pulling down towards the opposite back pocket of our pants. Long backs of the neck. Plie. Nicely done. Pull the next one down. This time, we're going to try, if you can, to hover both heels off the floor and down. Maintain that same height if you can. We're not doing this. We're maintaining the same height. We're going to go for 20. 1, 2, same height. 3, 4, tuck the ribs in. 5, 6, neutral pelvis. 7, 8, shoulder blades down. 9, 10, long backs of the neck. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, last one. And stand up, shake out those legs, kick those legs a few times if you need, maybe shake out your arms. And then when you're ready, we're coming back to the same position. Again, keeping that neutral pelvis, ribs tucked into your spine, shoulder blades sliding down into the opposite back pocket of the pants, long back of the neck, little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. We're going back into our pliés and up. Pliés and up. This is our last variation, I promise. We're probably all sick of these by now. Send your knees out over your toes. Really think about pulling up through your pelvic floor, neutral pelvis, that bucket of water, not a single drop is moving. Ribs clipped in, and you're tucking them towards your spine. Shoulder blades sliding down your back. Long backs of the neck, little peach under the chin. Pull that plie. And we're going to travel sideways, middle, and sideways. Whoops, let me move over. And middle. You're maintaining that same height if you can. So if I took a big blanket and I covered you from the hips and down, it probably shouldn't look like you're moving at all. You're completely stationary. Same height the entire time. You're maintaining that neutral pelvis. Not a single drop of water is moving in the bucket. Ribs still tucked in towards your spine. Shoulder blades sliding down your back. Long backs of the neck. Little peach under the chin, pulling up through the pelvic floor. Nicely done. Like you're gliding. You're gliding. You're sliding sideways. Same height. On the next one, maintain that height. See if you can pulse that leg for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other side. Keep yourself stationary. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more on each side. Keep yourself stationary. Same height. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last time on the other side. Keep yourself stationary. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to the middle. Come back up. Shake out those legs. Shake out those arms. Nicely done, everybody. Whew. Who said Pilates was easy? Okay, we're gonna come back, toes pointing forward, toes and knees pointing forward, feet hip width apart. We're going to ignore our 5 Pilates rest positions now, which you'll be happy to know. Palms facing forward. We're gonna float those arms up behind our ears, shrug the shoulders, and drop them down. So we're gonna reach the arms up overhead, shrug the shoulders, drop them down, and then bring the arms all the way back down. Make sure to splay your fingers. Float them up behind your ears, shoulders shrugging up and down. Reaching overhead, shoulders shrugging up and down. Sliding the arms all the way back down. One more, splay those fingers. Reaching up behind the ears, shoulders up and down. Reaching overhead, shoulders up and down, sliding the arms all the way down. We're going to soften the knees and go into our mermaid stretch. We're going to float the arms up into our second position. And we're going to maintain everything underneath the ribs completely stationary. Everything above the ribs is going to curve over. Other side, everything above the ribs. So we're not doing this. We want everything below the ribs to stay the same. Everything above the ribs is then curving over. Everything above the ribs. 2 more. Everything above the ribs moving, everything below the ribs not moving. Nicely done. Bring those legs out nice and wide. We're going to place our hands onto one side, stick our bottom back as far as we can into an inner thigh stretch from the side. We don't want to be like this. We want to stick the bottom back as far as we can. So the further you stick your bottom back, the more of a stretch you'll feel on the inside of that thigh. Breathing and stretch. And let's switch over to the other side. Sticking your bottom back as far as you can. And you should feel a stretch on the inside of that thigh. 1 more each side. Stick your bottom back as far as you can. Nicely done. Last time, other side. Stick your bottom back. Nicely done. And come on up. 1 leg forward, 1 leg back. You can hold on to something for balance if you like. We're going to go into our calf stretch. So the front knee is bent, the back knee is straight, and you're trying to press or reach that back heel down into the floor with that knee completely straight. So you should feel a stretch in the back calf muscle. You're reaching, lengthening the heel away from you. You're tucking the hip in a little bit as well. If you don't feel the stretch, you might need to walk the leg out further. Or if you're so far out that your knee is bent and you're not able to straighten it at all, you might need to bring it in a little. Breathing in the stretch. Really press that knee straight. Reach the heel down. Nicely done. And let's switch. Other side. Reach that heel down. Knee straight. Nicely done. Back knee straight. Heel down. And coming up, we're going to do a thigh stretch. You've got 2 options here. Number 1, you can hold on to something. Grab your foot and pull that heel towards you. Now, really important is you don't want your knee like this or like this. You want your knees to be together, almost like I glued the knees together. They're in one line. It's not more forward. One line. Pull the heel towards your bottom and push your hips forward. And you should feel a stretch at the top of the hip and the thigh. If that's too much for you and you can't hold on to your foot, don't worry. Grab a chair and place your foot on a chair behind you. Same thing, knees in one line and push the hips forward. The higher the seat of the chair, the more you feel that stretch. So whichever one works for you, whether it's the chair or holding onto your foot. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. So either grab your foot, knees in one line, pull it towards your bottom and push your hips forward, or place your foot on a chair behind you, knees still in one line, and push your hips forward still so you get that stretch at the front of the hips and then at the front of the thighs. So whichever version works for you, chair or the hand one, either one is fine. So done. And drop that foot. We're going to come back to the center grounding. You can either have your hands on your hips or drop your arms down to the side. And we're going to repeat what we did in the beginning. We're going to spread all 10 toes out as wide as we can along the floor. Really spread them nice and wide, pressing the soles of your feet into the earth. And then scrunching up your toes again, pulling them in as tight as you can. Again, spreading out your toes, spreading the soles of your feet into the earth, spreading those toes nice and wide, and scrunching all 10 toes up again. And we're going to relax the foot, neutral feet, soles touching the floor. And we're going to go into our swing. So the weight shift that we did at the beginning, I'm going to turn sideways. You're imagining your body is moving like a statue. Your hips are not moving, your knees are not moving, your whole body is stiff like a statue. The only point that's moving is from your ankles. And you're swaying. You're placing your weight forward on your feet and then back on your feet. And you're trying to go as far as you can, swaying in each direction without losing your balance and without needing to take a step to save your balance. And just notice for yourself whether you're able to go any further than you did at the beginning of the class. And we'll do the same thing going sideways. So same thing, we're going as far as we can to either side. You're really pressing the soles of your feet into the ground. Your whole body is swaying, not the hips, but the whole body is swaying. And you're trying to go as far as you can in each direction without losing your balance. And just notice for yourself, are you able to sway a little more than you did at the beginning of the class? And then we're going to write our names. Just the first name this time, using the swing motion. Try to write as big as you feel like you're able to. And just notice if you're feeling a little more agile. Maybe yes, maybe no. And then once you're finished, we'll come to some stillness in the middle. And we're going to close our eyes. You don't have to if you don't want to, but close your eyes if you want to. We're going to soften the knees a little bit with your eyes closed. You're going to place your hands at the bottom of your ribs with your eyes still closed. We're just going to breathe. Deep breath in to the bottom of our ribs, pushing our hands away from us, and breathing out, collapsing the bottom of the ribs back in. Again, breathing in, bottom of the ribs. And breathing out, collapsing the ribs back in. One more, breathing in, expanding into the bottom of the ribs. And breathing out, collapsing the bottom of the ribs. Standing back up, hands down. Open your eyes and just notice your surroundings again. What can you hear in the space around you? What can you see? And we're going to spread all 10 toes out one more time, as wide as you can on the floor. Like you're spreading some sand beneath your feet. Spread those toes out as wide as you can. And then relaxing. And you are done. Thank you everyone for joining us for week 3 of Power Pilates. My apologies about the Zoom issue smack in the middle of our class, although I guess some might say we got lucky that it was right in the middle of the hardest exercise. But anyway, I am glad that you all came back. and I look forward to seeing you again next week for our final class. And as you can see, with something like Pilates, it's really about having the muscle control to be able to hold your trunk in place and hold your posture as you're doing all sorts of different movements. So it might not be one of your big circuit classes where you're doing boxing and all these kind of cardio type movements, but as you can probably feel in Pilates, even though it looks really easy and really soft and calm, and when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like that at all, because it can be quite challenging to try to maintain all of those kind of postures that we're learning. So good on you for keep at it and for coming back. And I will see you again for our final class next week, same time, same place. Don't forget, Thursday we have our seated Pilates class, which mirrors this one, but of course sitting down is a little bit different posture-wise. So if you're someone who wants to try a seated class, you're welcome to try that one as well. And then last but not least, last plug-in in August, we have our PD Play class, which is a new class. It's a game-based exercise class, so it's exercise, but we do a lot of dual tasking. So a lot of brain games involved with that class as well, if you're interested. Okay, that's it for me. I will see you next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.